three different versions of physiological cooling that we're going to look at. The first is core temperature reduction, so an actual decrease in the internal temperature of the body. This is relevant because the elevated core temperature is the primary driver of heat illness. It's the primary driver of central fatigue and of performance inhibition. And that's the central governor model of fatigue, regulated by the internal thermostat, the hypothalamus that was discussed earlier. How to effectively cool for core temperature. The gold standard is cold water immersion. The ice bath, the cold tub, very large surface area, very high heat transfer possible, very, very high capacity heat sink. The challenge with cold water immersion is going to be accessibility, timing, practicality, but it really is the gold standard if you're trying to lower core temperature. Of the traditional cooling modalities, a few others that come up is ice slurry ingestion. It has shown that it can have some positive effects. You're able to get that cold heat sink into the body. It is a little bit limited and there's not a lot of great research on it, but certainly something that is doable. Pre-cooling with ice vests. Ice vests have shown some efficacy, especially due to large size. There are some challenges with the accessibility, the ease of use, the comfort, how it integrates into activity, but there is large surface area and large ability to cool. Limitations for most of these are either efficacy or practicality, and even for cold water immersion, which is highly efficacious, is practicality and accessibility. For a lot of other methods, such as ice towels, cold packs, ice packs, a lot of times they really do struggle or have minimal effect on actual core temperature if they're not augmenting the body's cooling mechanisms in place. So we talked about conduction, convection, evaporative heat transfer. If we cannot take these existing portals, these existing modes of heat transfer and optimize them, if you just place a cold towel on a part of the body that doesn't have a lot of heat transfer, there really is a limited effect on core temperature. If we're not looking internal at core temperature, we could be looking at skin temperature. Now, skin temperature is a lot easier to measure and evaluate how it's working. Benefits may be the gradient that we can change, how we can transfer heat, and there is heat transfer throughout the body. Impact on sweat rate, conserving fluids, but big time on perceptual impact. So cooling the skin does have that perceptual feel. This is why an ice towel in the back of the neck, one of the most significant benefits that comes from it are the perception of that cool feeling. Misting fans, spray bottles, these are also good for this. Those can help with evaporative and convective heat transfer. Different garments, how they wear, how they breathe, how we manage sweat, shade, airflow, all of these at a more skin temperature level do have relevance, even if they may not necessarily reduce core temperature. The third here being perceptual cooling, and there's some clear overlap between all three of these levels, but this is where the brain triggers. You can feel it. There's a little bit of RPE, that comfort, reduction in discomfort, and this can be really helpful. And without a doubt that having the perception of cooling does provide benefits for athletes and individuals. So the most effective methods for these: face and neck cooling, very sensitive areas. You can feel that very quickly. Airflow from fans when possible. Cold fluids helps. And clothing, equipment, the best we can manage that. Those are all ways to help with perceptual cooling. And finally, limitations is that the perception of cooling or feeling better does have a risk in that it may mask internal heat accumulation. So we may feel as though we're okay, where in reality we are still accumulating temperature, accumulating heat in the body that is actually putting us at risk. So we've got to be very careful to differentiate between what is feeling like we're cooled down versus where the body is actually sufficiently cooled and in a proper state for performance. This is a quick chart just to look at a few of the different methods. These are common traditional cooling modalities and the degree of impact they have on core, skin, or perceptual cooling. Again, these will all vary and there will be some nuance, but it's a nice quick overview of the different methods.